Yes. You're talking to the jury. All right. Ooh, Ian, pass that red thing. No, I got it. All rise. The Grecian Court of Heroes is now in session. The Honorable Judge Biggs presiding. Everyone but the jury may be seated. Jury, please raise your right hand. Perfect. Good job getting that right. Do you solemnly swear and affirm upon the story of the Odyssey you will truly listen to this case and render a true verdict and a fair sentence as to this defendant? Yes. You may be seated. Members of the jury, your duty today will be to determine whether the defendant is guilty or not guilty based only on facts and evidence provided in this case. The prosecution has the burden of proving the guilt of the defendant beyond a reasonable doubt. This burden remains on the prosecution through the trial. The prosecution must prove without a doubt that the defendant is not a hero. However, if you are not satisfied with the defendant's guilt to that extent, then a reasonable doubt exists and the defendant must be found a hero. Today's case is the People versus Odysseus. Prosecution, are you ready? Defense, are you ready?
Yes.
Where's your, you gotta sit with your people. Yeah, you're the one on trial. I mean, you are, but this is your court case. You are the cool's bag. Yeah, don't use that to your advantage, so I can't help you.
Oh my God.
So wounded. I mean, I've known plenty of not heroes, but watch trial. Your back's to the whole trial. Sit on the side. Sit on the other side. Sit. Defense, would you please contain your client? Or take the end of the table where that chair was put for a reason.
Oh.
Nicole's back had it right. Alright. We have a strict time schedule. The timing will be off. I'm going by length of minutes. It's going to be fine. Yes? Promise. Are they what?
Will this trial take 2 hours?
Well, we only have an hour and 20 minutes, so 40 minutes, so let's hope not.
Okay.
All right, we are ready. Opening statements. May begin.
Your Honor, my name is Kavin Rami.
You gotta come talk to the jury. They're the one who signed the fate.
My name is Kavin Rami. We represent the prosecution of Odysseus. Our proposition is the defendant should be condemned, not a hero. Now let's talk about the definition of a hero. The definition of an epic hero comes down to 5 traits: courageous, sacrificial, wounded, skilled, and destined. Odysseus fell short of all of these traits. Odysseus was not courageous in the slightest. He only performed great feats because his pride bade him to flaunt his prowess in front of others. When he was called to serve in the Trojan War, he feigned insanity to dodge the draft. How low he sank! Any courageous man would not have been ready to serve his country at one call. But Odysseus was not so. He was unwilling to sacrifice the comforts of his home and the loving embrace of his wife for the brutal killing fields of battle. On his voyage home, he sacrificed his men to Polyphemus and Scylla, all to save his own hide. That's not very heroic at all. Next, as for wounded, nowhere in the story was Odysseus injured. He had a few bruises here and there, but he never suffered a mortal wound. He never had to experience any real pain. His men, on the other hand, skilled. What about skilled? Sure, he is skilled at fighting. But you know what he's more skilled at? Cheating. This man is not a hero. He had the gall to stay on Calypso's island for 7 years playing checkers with her every night, all the while knowing he had a wife who had spent the last decade waiting for him, doing his best to raise a son without a father. He knew perfectly well the struggles his wife had faced in the past years, but here he was courting a goddess. Does this man have no morals? He does not deserve to be called a hero. He should be called a scoundrel, a swine, and many more names I should not say. Your Honor, we have proof that Odysseus is not the hero people believe him to be.
Members of the jury, counsel, and your honor, we are here today in the stance of Odysseus. Around here, we look at the whole story and not just a small part. We speak truth to power without fear or favor, in context and with perspective. My name is Joshua Davis. I am with my team, Navia, Alex, Priya, and Susan. We represent the defendant Odysseus. We stand here today because my client, Lord Odysseus, has been accused of not being a hero. So let's start with the basics. What is an epic hero? One author by the name of Dr. Antonio Del Drago narrowed it down to 5 simple traits. An epic hero is courageous, sacrificial, wounded, skilled, and destined. Odysseus does not just demonstrate these characteristics, but he excels at them. He has slain numerous armies to protect his hometown of Ithaca. He is the wisest of the Greeks. After all, he's the one who came up with the master plan of the Trojan horse, which fooled all the Trojans and was able to defeat them with ease. Under pressure, he steps up under pressure when his crew needs him the most. When the stakes are high, Odysseus gets the job done. He looks at a goal and does whatever he needs to accomplish it, and he doesn't give up easily. With the help of Athena, the goddess of wisdom, and his own knowledge, he has saved his crew numerous times from disastrous events. He is even willing to sacrifice himself to save his crewmates. Odysseus is a warrior destined for glory. With all these qualities, how is he not a hero? Well, that is why we're here today, to find out. Even though he may make some mistakes from time to time, he is a mortal after all. But he demonstrates the qualities of a hero and is one exceptional leader. He is a man of many morals, even though he may not always show them. We would like to ask you to keep an open mind and listen to all the evidence given. Thank you.
All right. I open the floor now for time for witnesses. Prosecution, you're up first.
We wish to call up Eurylochus.
They wish to call Eurylochus to the stand. Up here. We got a whole witness chair for you. It's a swivel chair. So you know it'd be fun. Before you sit, please raise your right hand, Eurylochus. There you go. Swearing upon the story of the Odyssey, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you Zeus?
Yes,
I do.
I do.
You may be seated.
You are Odysseus' second in command. You have been through many ordeals together. How would you describe your relationship with the captain?
I was, there we go. I was second in command of Odysseus' ship during return to Ithaca after the Trojan War. What was the question again?
How would you describe your relationship with the captain?
I was his second in command, and I would sometimes be the backup.
While you were leaving the island of the Cyclops, what did Odysseus do?
He decided that we should have stayed in the cave, even when we advised against it. So that led us to meeting the Cyclops and being in danger.
How did the rest of the crew react when Odysseus decided to call out his name to the Cyclops?
He put not just his life in risk, but he put his father's life in risk and ours, because the first time he had yelled out to the Cyclops, we had been washed back to shore and almost killed. So the second time he did this, we could have died.
So does this prove that Odysseus was not, did not know what to do at that situation?
Yes.
When you told Odysseus to stop taunting the Cyclops, did he continue taunting him?
What was the question again?
When you told Odysseus to stop taunting the Cyclops, did Odysseus still taunt him?
Yes. After the first time he taunted him again, with saying his name, where he lived, and his father's name.
You and the rest of the crew believe that the bag Aeolus gifted you contained treasure. Did Odysseus tell you what was in the bag?
Objection, leading question. That's a yes or no question, and it was like, did he tell you what was in the bag? And it was answered by no. So
Overruled.
How did you feel once you found out that he kept secrets from the rest of the crew?
We thought he was hiding something from us.
That's all.
You have no further questions?
Am I allowed to shout objection, or is he supposed to use objection?
Do we need a 1 minute recess to regroup?
Look at your.
Let's take a 1 minute recess to
Oh, okay.
regroup. No, we're back?
We're back.
All right, we're back.
Idiots.
In your opinion, what kind of leader do you think Odysseus is?
Can you repeat that again?
What kind of leader do you think Odysseus is?
I don't think he was a hero at all. He may have survived many situations because he was favored by gods and goddesses, but if we had had help from a god or goddess, we would have lived too. So
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, defense, it's your witness. A reminder to our defense and the prosecution should they need to object. You may only ask about the topics covered previously by the prosecution. Later, when it is your turn to examine, you can recall this witness if necessary.
So, on the island of Polyphemus, can you explain what happened? Why do you think that Odysseus wanted to stay and wait for the owner, who lived on the island, instead of following to the crew's instructions?
I guess he was curious. I don't know.
So, you say he was curious about this, right? So, how, and we also know that after he left, while he stayed on the island of Polyphemus, he made several mistakes, right? How could he improve on some of them?
Well, when we were stuck in the cave, he came up with the idea to stab the Cyclops in the eye. So he got us out, but he couldn't have improved. He could have improved the first time when he made the mistake of yelling to the Cyclops by not saying anything, but he did the mistake again, which proves that he just didn't even realize that he made a mistake.
But he did save you twice.
When did he save us?
He saved you. He saved you. In his first of all escaping the Cyclops, and then he also saved you when.
But he also
did you
put
see he turned you into swine? Or was about to eat you? not you, and you ran away and just left your group there.
What's
Yeah,
the
this-
question?
So he saved you twice, once on Circe's Island when he turned your men into swine, which you led them to do. So how does that make you better than Odysseus?
I didn't go in and I saw the mistake I made, so I fixed my mistakes and told Odysseus, and he came and saved them.
Exactly, he saved them.
Yeah, but I realized my mistake and I went back and helped.
But what, it should have come down to that.
Objection, Your Honor. One of the previous questions, they led her into saying that, Odysseus did save her, so.
You can lead on cross.
Yeah.
Overruled.
So it should have come down to that because he told you not to go onto the island and just wait there.
We wouldn't have been in that situation in the first place if he hadn't yelled at the Cyclops and angered him.
On Circe's Island?
But he also made mistakes.
So, we know that Odysseus made some mistakes, and you also made some mistakes. So, in your opinion, how can you say Odysseus is less heroic than you, for example?
I learned from my mistake and I went and got him to go
But-
help. But he made a mistake and also made it again. So
But
he didn't
Ody-
learn from his previous mistake.
But Odysseus, did he not save his crew from inside the cave of the Cyclops by
Yes.
blinding him and riding under the sheep in a ingenious way to get out
He
of the
rode,
cave?
he rode under the largest sheep though, and he was the last. So if someone had been found under the sheep, he could have just easily hopped off and been safe in the cave or survived a little bit longer.
Yeah, but riding last, doesn't that show that he's like, oh, he's wanting all his crew to go and he wants to be the last one, so he's like putting his crew in front of him. So that shows like he cares about his crew more than he cares about himself.
But why did he choose the largest? Am I allowed to ask questions?
No.
Okay. He chose the largest sheep, which it shows how he thinks less of us. Because we could have been found easier than on a smaller sheep than a larger sheep.
Going back to Circe's Island, you said that you realized your mistake. Did you realize your mistake or were you just being a coward? Because there are two different things.
What was the question again?
You said that you realized your mistake on Circe's Island. Did you realize your mistake or were you being a coward? Because there's two different things.
I was suspicious, but I also realized my mistake, and then I went back and grabbed Odysseus to help.
And then what happened on Helios' island? He told you not to touch the cows, but you ate the cows.
We wouldn't have been on that island if, well, see, the worst way to die is starvation. And, hold on a second. The worst way to die is starvation, and for soldiers to die of starvation is just a joke. So we should have tried to fight against the gods or something instead of just accepting our fate of if we eat a cow, we die. And I mean, they were amazingly delicious cows, so I mean, you get stuck on an island. We tried to fish and we tried to get food, and so it's not like we tried to not starve. I mean, we tried to get food, so
So, when you were trying to lead your crew on the island of Circe, and when Odysseus was trying to lead his, the crew on the island of Polyphemus, you both made mistakes. So, how would you distinguish who is a better leader, based on the mistakes they did, or based on their recovery from the mistakes and their attempt to solve them?
how did he recover from his mistake of yelling at Polyphemus?
I remind the witness that they
Sorry.
are not the ones asking
Sorry.
questions.
He didn't learn from his mistake. He was lucky that he didn't throw another rock or somehow get us back to shore.
Well, okay, he made the second mistake that may have been like out of egoistic pride or something, but the first mistake, he stayed on the cave, but he did help his crew get out of the cave in a genius way by, like, first he suggested to blind the Cyclops, then he waited because they thought that, oh, if we do it then they're going to be stuck in the cave. So,
But I also went back for help to help the other men that were turned into pigs.
No further questions.
All right, witness is excused. Prosecution. Back to calling witness. Next witness. Only one of you has come up at a time. Y'all can switch out as needed.
We would like to call the Polyphemus.
Polyphemus, called forward to the court. That works. Polyphemus has some bad eyesight. I ask the court to settle. Polyphemus, please raise your right hand. On the story of the Odyssey, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you Zeus?
Yeah.
I do.
Oh, I do.
All right, your witness.
Can you tell us what your life was like before Odysseus arrived on your island?
It was peaceful, and I loved my rams.
Where did you first meet Odysseus?
He came onto my cave and stole my cheese, and then when I came back, I saw him.
How did you first react when you first met Odysseus? And
I was mad because he stole my stuff, and then he expected hospitality even after stealing. And then I wanted revenge back, so if he stole my food, then I would steal some of his men as food.
how is his attitude towards you?
What?
How is his attitude towards you?
Oh, it was very arrogant because what kind of fool expects hospitality even after stealing from the person that's supposed to host them?
Can you tell us what happened to your eye?
He fed me strong wine that put me to sleep, and then because he has no courage, he could only harm me when I was asleep, so he took a stick and stabbed it into my eye, and it partially blinded me, and then so you can see the blood here. This is the stick he stabbed me with. The blood.
How did you feel when Odysseus tricked you into thinking his name was nobody and the other Cyclops laughing at you?
He did that just for his personal amusement, which shows his sadistic behavior. And sadistic behavior is not a characteristic of heroes.
Also, when Odysseus was leaving your island, what did he say to you?
He taunted me, and then I threw a hilltop at him, or at the sea, and that caused a huge wave blowing him back. And then he didn't say anything again until he could sail away again, because he's cowardly, so he could only yell from afar. And he told me his name, his father's name, and where he's from, and I used that information to pray to Poseidon, or my father, to bring doom to Odysseus. And because of his arrogance, he told me those things, which actually was the reason for the doom of his crewmates, because I prayed that his companions would die on the journey if he made it back home. So he was the main catalyst for the eventual dying of all of his crewmates.
Do you think his crew supported him in this action or not?
No. After he taunted me once, his crewmates advised him to leave me alone because they had almost died when they were brought back to shore, but his arrogance prevented him from doing that, and his inability to learn from his mistakes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, defense, your witness.
So you kept talking about Odysseus' arrogance when he, for example, brought you the wine. Well, was it really arrogance? Like, was there a purpose to him bringing you wine, or was it just out of arrogance?
He didn't bring me wine to be arrogant. He brought me wine because he's a coward who can only harm me when he was asleep. When I was asleep.
So, wouldn't that show, like, his heroic abilities to think of a plan? Oh, at this state, I can't defeat him because he's much taller than me, he's much stronger than me. But if I can put him to sleep, then I can defeat him that way. So wouldn't that show his intellectual ability to think outside the box and come up with a plan?
It shows intellectual ability, but courage is more important characteristic for heroes than intellect. So it's more important to not be a coward instead of a smart person.
Well, I wouldn't really consider it cowardly because
He was cowardly because he could only yell at me from afar and see too.
Yeah, because if he did come close, if you're looking at it this way, he's like a 5-6 foot man, you're like 10 feet. So in the battle, who would win? So to overcome that, you have to come up with a plan to help.
But Greek heroes defeated many enemies that were much stronger and much bigger than them.
Well, Odysseus's strategy was different than that.
That's not a characteristic of a Greek hero though.
Characteristics of a hero just mean like being courageous and being like sacrificial and showing that your abilities to fight and like showing your
Yeah, but he wasn't courageous because he could only harm me when I was asleep.
The judge would like to remind the court we are here to find out if Odysseus is a hero, not whether or not he's a Greek hero. Presume.
Oh, okay.
So, when he first came into your cave, he didn't know that there were Cyclops there, and so he was just taking food because he just thought it was there. And then, so you came in and then you started harming him.
Can I interrupt you?
Okay.
It says in the text from afar he saw me with my sheep, so he knew that I was there. But he waited until I was gone from the cave to come inside the cave, and then he ate my food.
Okay, but still, you didn't know that he was there, and then when you came back, you saw him eating food, you harmed him, which isn't, like, correct Greek.
I didn't harm him. I harmed his men because I ate his food because he stole my food. So why can't I steal stuff from him as food?
Your Honor, may we please have 1 minute regrouping?
I'll grant 1 minute recess to regroup. Yo. You got 30 seconds. Yes. Yep, yeah, the whole trial. Talk about it. Yeah. But they told me you're a wonderful witness. 20 seconds.
Wait. Jason defeated many of the Captain America. He was immortal. Jason.
But then
He also defeated many immortal.
And also, the notes, can you do like
Bullet points or
a
paragraph?
question
That's
and a
fine.
bullet
Yep.
point?
The court is called back to session. I remind you, witness, you're still under oath.
So, when recalling back when Odysseus came to your island and stole some of your cheeses, you said before that, oh, he stole some of my cheeses, so I ate some of his men. So, why did you do that?
Because I was angry, and if he's stealing stuff from me as food, why can't I do the same to him?
There's a common practice in ancient Greek culture called exenia, Xenia, which is a common practice of giving food and drinks to unknown guests because they need to be God. So why did you deny to follow the those customs?
And then what would have happened if he was a god?
Why would I show hospitality to someone who stole stuff from their host? Also, I don't fear the gods. According to the text, I was unmoved by the threat of Zeus.
So you keep calling Odysseus a coward because he killed you in your sleep, but that doesn't really show that he's a coward. Like when you say that would be thinking outside the box, and like because since it would be easier for him to kill you while in sleep instead of killing you in a battle. What's your opinion on that?
Can you repeat the question?
You say Odysseus is a coward for killing you in your sleep, but wouldn't that be thinking outside the box because it would be easier to kill you in your sleep than killing you in a battle?
It would be easier, but
So
it's
that-
not as heroic. And also, his
Wouldn't that
his
be-
idea to stay in the cave in the first place is what caused many of his men to die when I ate them. So he was the reason for all of his men dying, actually, by telling me his name, his father's name, and his home.
So you still haven't answered the question. Wouldn't that be like thinking outside the box? Like wouldn't that show his like ability to think?
Depends on your perspective, but if you
Yeah, I'm asking your perspective.
okay, I don't think it is because he could still fight me in a real battle, as many of your heroes, or many heroes have done.
Yeah, but wouldn't it be easier to kill you in your sleep?
That's not as
Not
heroic.
wasting time.
Huh?
Wouldn't that be like a different approach to thinking outside the box?
Wait,
And
you
then-
said not wasting time.
Not wasting
Isn't
time,
the
and
end-
then that would
isn't the
that
entire-
would
isn't the-
wait, and that would cause less of his men to die because you would have probably killed more men.
Okay, let me. The idea to stay in the cave is what is already a waste of time and caused many of his men to die. So I don't think that's really a worry for him.
Do you have a final question, defense?
Did when Odysseus stayed on your island, did you do anything good on your island?
No, he stole stuff from me, stabbed me in the eye, and then taunted me.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. We have 8 minutes left. You are dismissed from case. You can call probably one final witness, and you probably have about 4 minutes with the questions. Go.
We wish to call Poseidon.
Poseidon, you're called to the stand. There is no Poseidon. Oh, okay, duh. Sorry. Oh no, what happened to your oar? Poseidon, please raise your right hand. On the story of the Odyssey, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you Zeus?
I do.
Your witness.
Why were you angry at Odysseus?
I was angry with Odysseus because he proceeded to blind my son unfairly.
How did you curse him?
I made his journey home very difficult.
In your opinion, is Odysseus a hero? Why or why not?
I would not say he's a hero because many times when he's trying to escape Polyphemus, he put his entire crew in danger by essentially teabagging on him. So,
The court requests a further terminology of the street term.
I believe this flexing would be a better term.
Again, witness, please stick to strict court terminology.
He was arrogantly celebrating at his success and pointing out that he was just a puny mortal who was able to escape a giant cyclops, even though like he stole cheese and stuff from him.
How did you feel about Odysseus' sacrifice? Did it really change your opinion about him?
I mean, he killed like 100 cattle, and he went all the way inland till no one knew what the sea was at that point. So I can't be too mad at him because he did his duty and he did right by me. But yeah.
No.
Time for one more question, counselors.
From a father's perspective, you saw that Odysseus had harmed Polyphemus, and what's your opinion on that? How do you feel about that, knowing that Odysseus, such a tiny mortal man, hurt your son like that?
It's deeply disturbing to me that he was able to break in my son's cave, you know, and he was able to take the things that he wanted, and the way that he addressed Polyphemus next was threatening, as Polyphemus was taken aback by how Odysseus and his men were inside his cave eating his food, and Polyphemus was taken back, so he was like, "Who are you?" And Odysseus proceeded to take this as a threat and threaten him back, saying that he would use the wrath of Zeus to punish essentially a host. You know, it was very disturbing.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Defense.
So first off, we're gonna ask you, what is your opinion of Odysseus? Well, he could have handled things better with Polyphemus, but in the end, he did right and did a sacrifice.
So you said he did things wrong in the island of Polyphemus. So if you were in Odysseus' shoes and that wasn't your son, and there was a big Cyclops eating your men, what would you do? Would you disable the Cyclops to save your own men if you're trapped in the cave without a way out?
If that was a scenario where I walked into a cave and I was greeted by a giant angry Cyclops eating men, is that the question?
Yeah, like what would
Eating
you,
your men, if they were like a part of your army.
what would you do?
If I walked in first, I would try and understand what was happening, and the situation you described is not exactly the same as what happened with Polyphemus, but in that different scenario, I might have taken similar measures and like handicapped this Polyphemus or the Cyclops in that example to save my men.
So, so Odysseus' plan to get out of the cave, would you call that a genius plan, or how would you describe his plan? To get out of the
I would
cave?
describe it as very like a pathetic like redemption. As like first he kind of dragged his men into the cave, even though none of them were like keen on going inside, and then Polyphemus came and ate some of his men, and like he had to come up with a plan to get them all out, and not all of them were able to get out. So I wouldn't say it was a genius plan.
What about him putting his men first and escaping the cave? Do you think that was heroic? Sacrificial of him?
Well, it was a smart idea to use the sheep as like essentially like a shield to protect him from Polyphemus' arms. He took the biggest
30
sheep.
seconds. Good.
He took the biggest sheep to get himself out alive, and he could have put his men on that big sheep, and that would have given them more security.
But that's
If
not the
something
question. The
happened.
question is, do you think it was sacrificial of him to go last, escape the cave last?
Yeah, it was sacrificial.
No further questions?
No question.
All right. You're excused from witness. Thank you. We now move for time for evidence and the examination by the defense.
First witness, Odysseus.
First witness to the stand, we'd like to call is Odysseus. Seen very little use of evidence thus far. Interesting. Court, please. What is this, a school? No, this is court proceedings.
So why did you blind
Ooh,
Cyclops?
Odysseus, please raise your right hand. On the story of the Odyssey, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you Zeus?
I do.
Your words.
So why did you blind the Cyclops?
I blinded the Cyclops so that I can escape the cave with all my men safely.
So then why did you start taunting him afterwards?
It was a mistake. I probably should not have done it, and I lost myself there. But at least I got my men out of the cave safely.
And what about the suitors? Why did you kill them?
I killed the suitors with this sword because I needed to teach the island a lesson that I was still their king and that they needed to trust me so that I would come back.
So, on the island of Polyphemus, you made the mistake of staying there, waiting for the Cyclops. So, what was your thinking into that?
My men needed more food, so that I needed to feed them more food. So we saw the cheese there, and so we needed to get more food for my crew. So we stayed there so we can just eat the cheese that was laying there. And then when we realized that there was a Cyclops there and he trapped us in there, we devised up a great plan and escaped under the sheep.
So, once you left the island, you started taunting. Once you left the island, you started taunting the Cyclops. What was your? Why did you decide to do that?
As I said before, it was a mistake, and I was out of my mind there.
The defense stated that Odysseus stayed in the cave just for the cheese, but in reality, he was only curious to see who was living there. Yes.
Sustained. Counselors, please rephrase your question.
After you left the island of Polyphemus, you started to taunt the Cyclops. What was your thinking into that?
As I said before, it was a mistake that I should have not done, and I live up to my mistakes.
What would you say, throughout your entire journey, what would you say is your greatest achievement?
My greatest achievement is the fact that I did what no other mortal man has accomplished by surviving the Song of the Sirens and not falling victim, just like many other men.
Alright, so no further questions.
Prosecution, your witness.
Why did you stay in the cave in the first place?
I stayed in the cave in the first place because for one of two reasons. I wanted to see who was living there, and I also wanted to stay for the food and just for the food.
So you call yourself so your defense calls you a good leader and a hero, right?
Yes.
But you had said my men came pressing around me, pleading, "Why not take these cheeses, get them stowed, come back, throw open all the pens, and make a run for it, or drive the kids and lambs aboard? We say put out again on good salt water. Oh, how sound that was. Yeah, I refused. I wish to see the caveman. What he had to offer, no pretty sight. It turned out from our friends. If you were a real hero and a leader, you would have taken your men and just gone, because you put your own men in danger just for your own selfishness. Also, during the interview, you described your relationship with your wife as loving. You stated that you loved her and you tried everything to give back to her. For how long did you stay on Calypso's Island?
I stayed on Calypso's Island for 7 years.
And why did you try to leave?
I didn't try to leave because I knew I would have drowned if I tried to swim off the island.
But why didn't you try convincing Calypso that? Because you know that you have a wife at home. She's been in Ithaca for over 10 plus years. You have a son that's growing up without a father figure in his life. Why wouldn't you try convincing Calypso to go home?
I did not try to convince Calypso because I knew that she was more powerful than me.
You say Calypso is more powerful than you, yet before when you still had your crew, you landed on Circe's island. Why did you play checkers with her?
It was an honest mistake, and I knew I should not have done that.
Objection, Your Honor. We never talked about Circe's island, so I don't think they can cross-examine that.
Sustained. Please move on, counselors. Discuss Calypso, didn't discuss Circe.
Can we get a recess, please?
You can have a 1-minute recess. Oh no! Run to Spencer's screen. He doesn't have a class right now, so get a little knock knock in. Beg and please.
Mine is so fun because it's
We need you, King. I call the court back to order. I remind you, you're still under oath. Proceed.
After you were asked some questions, you declared that you were uncomfortable and stood up to leave. Are you aware that in doing so, you are withholding information and obstructing justice, and therefore may be held in contempt of court?
No, I am not withholding information.
Well, in the middle of the interview, you stood up and left. You didn't answer our questions.
I don't recall that. Wait. Can you repeat the question?
In the middle of the interview, you stood up and left and did not answer the questions that were asked.
Wasn't the interview over?
The interview was not over. We were still asking you questions.
I did come back though, didn't I?
You didn't.
You sure?
Witness, I remind you they are the ones asking questions.
Excuse me?
I remind you they are the ones asking the questions.
Yes, I did stand up and leave.
And why was this? Was there any information you did not want to disclose? Revealing that you're not an actual hero? And that you're not a leader? Then why did you leave? Tell us.
I left because. Can you repeat the question?
Why did you leave in the middle of the interview?
I left in the middle of the interview because I felt that I had revealed all the information necessary to the.
Well, if we're still asking you, you can't get up and just leave. We're still asking you questions, and that's not allowed. So was there any? Was there any? Why? Just.
I already answered that.
But information that you could have said was necessary for us to prove that you were not a hero. So why did you leave?
I already answered that.
No, the questions we were asking you were necessary for us, and you can't just leave in the middle of that. So there's obviously a problem with you having to answer these questions. And why is that? What is your problem with answering those questions we were asking you?
Objection. I would say that my client can plead the Fifth Amendment, meaning that he doesn't have to answer the question, so therefore he can or cannot answer the questions provided in the interview.
Sustained. You have the right to enact the Fifth Amendment if you feel what you may say would either find you guilty or make you admission to another guilty clause. Proceed cautiously.
Further questions?
Witness dismissed. Defense. Next witness. The defense calls Calypso to the stand. Calypso, what is your original epithet?
My original epithet, it is the sweet nymph.
The one that you created?
No, that's the one that I found online.
What's the one you created?
Oh, that's the one we were supposed to create one.
Yeah.
Oh, I used the thought.
Used what?
Um.
You can go take a seat. That's fine.
I'll find it. Yeah, the sweet nymph is one of mine.
You called yourself the thought? All right, raise your right hand. Please raise your right hand. Calypso the thought. Do you swear upon the story of the Odyssey to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you Zeus?
I do.
You may be seated. You are witness.
So, in your opinion, was Odysseus trying to be faithful to his wife Penelope, or did he give in to you?
He was trying to be faithful, but I seduced him.
So, while Odysseus was on your island, did you or did you not put a spell on him to make him stay like 7 years?
Per se, I sang a song and used this loom to give him really just advise him that this was wise to do. I wouldn't call it a spell, but I did persuade him.
But in the text it states that though he fought shy of her and her desire, he lay with her each night for she compelled him, and according to Google, compelled means forced.
Forced, I wouldn't, first of all, your sources, I think. And, okay, I didn't force him. I compelled him, which means I sang him the song, and he was crying and sad, and I sang him the song, and he just played the loom, and with that, it was a mutualistic decision to checkers.
So you said he was crying and sad. Was he crying and sad because he was missing his wife?
He was crying and sad because he could not be with her.
So how often was he, like of all the times you've seen him throughout the day, how much of the time was he like sad for his wife and like longing to be with her?
In the morning, we woke up, and we woke up together in my cave. The afternoon, that was kind of a blur. At closer to the late afternoon, he sat on the ocean shore, started singing, weeping for his wife. I arrived, seeing him sad, sung a song to him, played the loom. Next, checkers.
So you said he sat on the ocean side and was weeping for his wife. So can you approximate how long was that? Maybe 3 hours, 3 hours, or anything?
Probably around, I don't remember. I don't recall that information. It was 7 years, and not every time it's the same. It varied.
Okay. Whatever he told you about his adventures, do you think he is a hero if he told you anything about his adventures?
I heard many stories over the past 7 years that we spent together. I heard things that put you much beyond being a hero. Any mortal man can complete. No mortal man can normally complete these feats. But I have also heard from other sources directly that he was an arrogant, self-loving, and really just disrespectful to the gods. Therefore, I believe that he might have had these heroic actions, but he's not a hero.
Who are these other sources, and when did you hear from them?
So do you know Hermes, the god who messengered over here? Yeah, I heard from other gods that he's a disrespectful person, and throughout the times that he was with them, he disrespected them, such as Zeus.
But if he disrespected them, why would he kill a bunch of his cattle for them?
That I didn't know until recently, but if he did that, then it took clean slave.
And you're under maybe 1 minute recess.
Why don't you can go over and ask what they're asking about? That's fine. You can continue. You want 1 minute?
Yeah.
All right, it's on your time. 1 minute of recess. Question? So far they've used 1. This is their second. I'm going to think that so far we're okay. Once it gets to 3, I'm going to start being aggravated. but it's eating into their own time. How's it going, Drew? Like, it's been pretty juicy so far. I've been surprised at some choices to not object.
No, there was some stuff that should not have been allowed. They were just talking. We're not allowed to do that, right? You're not allowed to ask questions, right? When we did the trial this back, she was like doing that shit with the ladies. She was like, I said N-word
Yeah, I know it's kind of like really.
I feel like this is what happened to Red Rose.
I feel like I write something and then later I respond to people.
I think you'll get like
Yeah.
I've been doing
The court resumes. I remind our witness you are still under oath.
You heard from other sources that Odysseus was an arrogant and self-willed person, correct?
I've heard that from others.
So, but being egotistical is the nature of heroes, as shown in the 10 things that Greeks think makes a hero, is that heroes are childlike in their boasting and rivalries in their love for presents and rewards. So, do you think the being self-loving demonstrates that he's a hero?
I have met heroes, and most of them weren't the self-loving level that he was, and that's why I believe that he was a hero. Because he was, yes, they're self-loving, but they don't put that to a point where they put that over everything else. They don't put their own thoughts over everything else.
You said that you got like sources from other gods about Odysseus. It says Calypso later told me of this exchange as she declared that Hermes. So Calypso only got information from Hermes, not from any other gods. So
We got this chatted.
okay.
We chatted.
And also it wasn't Odysseus that was it says both Father Zeus and gods of this forever punish Odysseus as men. So they weren't mad at Odysseus, they were mad at men for their actions. So
And also, you said that you don't think he's a hero, but in your interview, you clearly stated that he told me plenty, and I do think that he's very much a hero.
So what
I
is your
did not say that. I said the question, what was your question in the interview?
We asked you, do you think Odysseus is a hero?
I said that a hero wouldn't describe him incorrectly. You took that out of context.
You have a recording of it.
Can you read back to me?
Read back the interview.
Can we to the relevancy of the tape, please? This is why we have transcriptions of interviews. You have 30 seconds, counselors. You have 30 seconds to prove your point.
I said he's very much a hero in his actions. As I said,
Will you continue? Will you put it backwards about 10 seconds worth?
He is very heroic, is where your exact word.
He's heroic. He does heroic action.
Order in my court. Witness, I remind you, you are under oath and can be held in contempt of court for lying on the stand. Do you understand? Counsel?
Objection, Your Honor. During the tape recording, they were glossing over important details. They weren't hearing what he said after that or before that too.
And the fact that they asked him the same question they asked her during the interview, and she answered a different way, I am overruling. You're on thin ice. Well, thought you? Okay.
No further questions.
Your witness.
Different things for orange or bad.
I wrote it in here that I said something about I said his actions are like what he did.
Counselors, you're getting your time?
Would you say you liked hearing Odysseus weep? Because if you are as powerful as you say,